Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me and see me. Welcome to episode 28 of the Renovation and Outdoor Living Show. It's July the 10th, 2020. Now, I'm at my batch, which is by the side of a lake near Lake Rotorua. I'm on a very dodgy Wi-Fi connection. There is no phone coverage here. So right now, you might be able to see me, you might not. We've already prepped our two guests today with the wonderful instructions that if they can't hear me, just please carry on talking. So this is going to be a bit of a trial and error episode, okay? So we'll see how we go. I'm going to keep an eye on the various comments I'm going to be getting through from our sort of production team. But at the moment, I'm going to assume everyone can see and hear me. And by the way, it is a beautiful day down here by Lake Tarawera. Now, if you were watching on Tuesday, our location was, well, it was a rainy car park in Rotorua because my signal here wasn't working at all. So I drove into town. That's in central North Island of New Zealand. If you don't know, if you're watching from Australia or the US or the UK and you don't know the geography of this place. And we're now about 20 kilometers away from Rotorua on the shores of Lake Tarawera. I can't actually get to the lake's edge because I'm having to stay right next to the router so that this works, but the Wi-Fi here isn't great at the batch. It's not strong enough to cover the 20 meters, but it is about 20 meters that way to the most stunning day on the lake here. So on Tuesday, we were talking about what we're doing now. Working from home. Paul Cree of Refresh Renovations, that was a Melbourne-based Refresh. He gave us an insight into the level of planning that should go into a working from home space. This is why more and more people are looking at doing this as a permanent thing in the future. Talking about the desk space, the position of the desk, the lighting, the electrical requirements. And then we had our first Renovate Radar. And this is basically a product review. We've not done one until Tuesday, and the Renovate Handbook editor Frankie Orton took us through. I'll go through this. Go and have a look at the episode on YouTube on our YouTube channel. If you go to YouTube and you just put a Renovation and Outdoor Living Show, it'll pop up. And have a look at this thing called the Nanoleaf Canvas, which is basically an amazing light installation. You can put it in any sort of a configuration you want, and it does all these wacky, amazing things through its app. It can be programmed to interact with various sound and light as you require. And Frankie finished the review by giving us details of how you can win one of them, because they're not cheap, but you can win one if you enter our competition here. We'll remind you of the details of that later in the show. So to today, and fingers crossed that that our guests work out and that you can actually see and hear me. First up, we're looking into tips for recladding. Now, it's that time of year. You may be aware of the need for warmth and insulation. On top of a top quality cladding plays obviously a huge role in this. Now, we've met Kim before on the show. Kim runs Refresh Manukau, Eastern Bays and Franklin. And Kim, you're an interior architect and also a highly experienced project manager. So let's talk about this recladding because it's a really important part of any renovation. So how often are you asked to look at, I don't know, you're approached by people who say, we just need to get the cladding done, or
Hi, Rawdon. You're broken up a little bit there, but I'll just jump on in. Can I? Give me the thumbs up. Yeah, look, we're approached regularly. Okay, we're approached regularly with this recladding issue. Obviously, your house is only as good as its envelope or waterproofing. There's a number of ways we need to look at it. You know, whether it's a maintenance issue or whether it's improving maybe a leaky home or a poor installation or a poor solution from the design point of view. But we are getting asked regularly, especially, you know, with also the asbestos concerns. Many clients are asking us to remove the asbestos cladding. So it is a very common inquiry into our franchises. Are you there? Shall I just carry on? You there? Yep. So I'll just carry on chatting about it, shall I? So
is that something they're aware of when they ask you, or is that something which is uncovered once you start actually going into the cladding?
Look, you know, this reclad scenario is scary, and everybody thinks, oh, reclad is going to be, you know, lots and lots of dollars. It really depends on why you're recladding. You know, it could be that you are just wanting to upgrade and have more street appearance. It might be that you're double glazing your joinery at the time, and it's a good time to take that cladding onto a cavity. So you've got a newer solution, which is pretty simple to do. But if it does become a leaky home, or it is triggering a consent, where it's not just a maintenance issue, it's now becoming a design and resolve solution, and then that does become a lot more concerning, because there is going to be moisture on the interior of those on the interior parts of the walls and the framing. So it does become a bit more of a consent, or it does become a consent, and it does become a little bit more integrated, and can get sort of bigger than Texas. But you really need to understand why you're doing it first up, and the best way to achieve it. To get to that end goal of having a sound system. Does that make sense? Yeah. I'll just carry on going. Hey, I'll just carry on chatting. I love talking. So when you're recladding, and once you've decided whether it is a maintenance issue or whether it is, an actual moisture problem, make that decision. Have a chat to your consultants and see how you're going to run that project. Just be mindful that any type of cladding is quite a high management level. You need to protect your home on the inside, so scaffolding, the shrink wrapping, if possible, we do recommend that. It does just make the process much quicker and runs much smoother, depending obviously what time of the year it is. And it's a really good time to consider upgrading your joinery at the same time, because you're going to be at those levels, you're going to have scaffolding there, so really good time to consider that.
Hear me? I know there's a bit of a lag, but I was just going to say, I'm really interested to know about the time.
So I didn't get that, but I'm assuming that's the time frame of a clad. Is that right, Rawdon? You're wondering about the time frame? Yeah, look, so the time frame is, it all depends on what needs to be done, really. First of all, you'd be removing all of that clad, and then dealing with all the issues below, if there are issues. So it would be new paper, new flashing on those windows, and things like that would need to be dealt with. We have done a villa before where we had to actually put in a drip lining in there, just to help with that, and we did that from the outside in, which was quite difficult. But it just depends really on each project, and each project needs to be dealt with individually. There is a board or a group at the council, at most councils across the country, that will help you with that. And obviously your architects, and definitely your consultant, because it's a full process that you need to consider. It's the technical and the actual physically doing it and making the project run. So you do need to have all parties involved, and you need to have someone leading that reclad process. Definitely think about enhancing your property, the street value. This is the arrival point. This is what you expect when you arrive at your house. So use this opportunity to upgrade that and really enhance it and improve the standard of your home, really. Think about maintenance further down. If you've got a difficult home, lots of double stories, think about having a product up there that maybe might not need so much maintenance, which will give you years and years of longevity on that project. Okay. Am I answering the questions there? Is there anybody else? Any questions coming up? Okay, the shrink wrap. I'll just answer Jane's question here. Jane, look, in New Zealand, that is definitely a preferred way. You've got to remember that your house is open to the elements. And we have these changing elements all the time in New Zealand. So it's not only the rain, it's the wind. So it is advisable. And although it is a cost,
Hey, Kim,
you'll find
Kim,
the project will
fantastic.
be much quicker.
Hey everyone, so I will be actually taking over from Roden because we are having some technical error and issues. So Kim, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Is that all right? Sorry.
Perfect. Thank you so much for actually taking over and managing it all yourself. So hi everyone, this is Ravina. I manage the back end of the show, but I think today I will have to be on the front. Okay, let's do this. So just wanted to know, Kim, as you talked about the recladding, what about the what do we do? It's about building consents. Do we need to think
Yes.
about building consents in this scenario?
So that's something on the onset you need to decide. If it's a maintenance, purely a maintenance requirement, there is a possibility that you won't need building consent, but you will need to make sure you have an LBP, a registered, a licensed building practitioner doing the work.
Okay.
If you're doing the reclad for moisture problems, moisture ingression, things like that, then it will need a consent because that will trigger a leaky home scenario.
Okay.
And that will need to have all of the documentation that support it. But if it is a maintenance, not really.
All right, so that pretty much answers that question. The other question we would have is basically, when is the right time to do these recladding for the property?
Definitely the summer months is better. It depends on the area that you're recladding and how exposed the house is. But I would really, the reclads that we've done, we've taken about 6 months to plan it. And I would really recommend getting someone on board that can help you plan it and plan the whole process so that all the product is there ready to go. If you're having a pre-finished product that's being imported or what have you, make sure you're not going to have any holdups, because it's a very difficult process, this recladding, to stop and halt halfway through. You really want to, once you open up those walls, you want to just have the team in there and get it finished sort of without any delays. So planning is absolutely paramount. And, you might need an electrician, you might need gutter people in there to help you. There's a lot of other inclusions that you need to consider when recladding. It's not just a builder, it might be other trades.
All right, Kim, thank you for answering all our questions from today. If we have any other questions from the audience, we will definitely be getting in touch with you. And people, if you want to speak to one of the renovation consultants, please visit the website that you see on the screen now. Thank you, Kim, and we will be talking to you again.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Ravina. Bye.
Bye. All right, so our next guest for today is James McLean. He is the director and principal landscape architect of JD Landscape for Living. I will just be adding him to the screen now. All right, hi James, how are you today?
Not too bad, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. As this is my first time, let's start with your introduction about your business.
Sure. Basically, I've worked since I graduated from Lincoln University down in Christchurch. I worked for District Council for 3 years, Whangarei District Council, sorry, for 3 years, and then proceeded to sort of trip around the world. Came crawling back to Whangarei about 5 years ago, and decided it was now or never. I was going to start my own design firm. So that's basically where I'm at. So 5 years up here, dealing with beautiful coastal locations, lovely scenery. The winterless north, it still gets pretty cold, but yeah, no, it's been great.
I can see the sun shining on your face, and I am jealous about that. All right. So getting into our topic for today, it's basically you would be talking about landscaping and how we can elevate that street appeal or the entrance appeal of the property. So where can we get started if we have a house and we want to look into making it beautiful at the front?
Yeah, having a house is a really good start. one of the things that, especially with a lot of new developments in and around the country, we're seeing more and more restrictions in terms of what you can do. So, for example, in district plans, in any district around around New Zealand, sorry, you'll have statutory rules that restrict what you can and can't do. But more so, you'll probably find that new development, so let's say you buy a block of land in a new development, there'll be covenants and what you can and can't do on your property. It can sort of be as you might say things like you can't plant a tree that's going to grow over 10 meters or 3 meters for that matter. You can't have a fence across the frontier boundary. And a lot of these covenants are designed to keep a certain standard in the landscape. So a lot of people aren't allowed to do, let's say, board and batten fences and things like that. And then, of course, if your house, sometimes if you're building a home in sort of sensitive areas, you'll also have conditions of consent where we have to do maybe implement planting to soften the impact of that your house will have on the landscape. So there's a lot of different rules, I guess, that you have to comply with these days. But in saying that, most homes, like if you were to buy a second-hand, a pre-loved home in the middle of town, generally you don't have any of those restrictions, and you've got free. You can basically do whatever you like within reason, obviously.
So what do we do if the property that we can see on the screen, the first thing you would see of this house is not even the entrance, but the big garage door? So how?
Exactly. So that's one of the key things that I like to, as a designer, like to encourage people when they, especially if they are building, is look at the relationship between, what is it that you see when you approach the house, and more often than not, with more a lot of new homes, it's the garage door. So we've got to weigh up that sort of, if it is the garage door, how do we then draw attention to the front door, which is, we want to try and make the place feel friendly and not like a car park. So we're looking at sort of ways to sort of really identify and help hone people in onto where the front door is. As you can see in this image on the right hand side, that's the front door right down the back there. So what we'll probably end up doing is looking at things like delineating a clear pathway from the street front all the way to the front door, and even separating that away from the driveway, so they become sort of two different entities, and that, then you're sort of adding importance and a focal to that front door. And same thing with things like structure. So small walls help, again, for example, in this particular image, these walls are sort of drawing your eye in right into the middle, right to the front door. You've got planting on either side, which helps sort of frame the view. And then these got this house here, so it has outdoor furniture or features and things like that, and that could be done with pots, other ornaments, sculpture, and things like that. So that's a really good way of helping to sort of draw emphasis to the front door, rather than the common problem that we seem to be having at the moment is an over-exaggerated garage door, because that's smack bang right front and center.
Cool. And if we were to talk about planning and designing the front spaces, what is the importance of planning and designing for your landscape projects?
Well, the design basically draws, I think, you're looking at the design character and how you would want, what sort of how do you want the desired effect that you want to have with your landscape. So with design, you have many different styles of design. You could have modern, classical, contemporary, tropical, subtropical. You've got all these different sort of takes that you can have, and then on top of that, generally you would want to marry them in quite nicely with the architecture of the house. So let's say you've got an old villa, something that's quite classical, or very structured, box hedging, very, very symmetrical. That works quite well. If you've got a more of a modern home or a contemporary sort of styled house, then sort of more limited sort of material palettes, looking at more maybe mass planting, using sort of big, strong feature items in the landscape. And then, of course, also you want to sort of consider, when it comes to, I sort of use the term sense of arrival, and you want to create that sense of arrival. So you want to create that impact. When you arrive into the property, you want to have that wow factor, and you want to sort of create that, it's a transition space as well. So you're moving from, if it is your home, it's a transition space, you shouldn't be rocking up to any random person's house, but you want to create that sort of feeling that you are home, or you are arriving to somewhere special. So, there's many ways that you can sort of achieve that. And even sort of down to the littlest detail, as in, what type of texture is on the hard surfaces. Like if you're using a custom paver, what's that texture? How does that sort of make it feel? It can come down to, even if you're using sort of loose aggregate or something like that, even that sound, the sounds that you make when you walk on it. Using lighting efficiently in terms of, using subtle lighting and lighting up key features, or creating those really sort of nice shadow effects without sort of lighting everything up like a Christmas tree. It comes down to a lot of careful planning, and again, and coming back to that again, it's taking into consideration what the client wants, their personality, what they like. Do they want a really high maintenance garden? So maybe they're very, very busy people, and obviously you want to sort of do, and it's more common that you do a low maintenance, easy care landscape these days, because people just don't have the time to spend time in the landscape. So you're looking at things that are going to last a good amount of time, always look nice and fresh, maybe get in there every 6 months to do a quick sort of clean up.
So we've talked about the design and the planning. What are the approximate costings that we're looking at?
So in terms of getting a landscape construction, building a landscape, putting some money aside for a landscape, generally people like to sort of think, the general rule of thumb is about 20% of what the value of what you spent on a house. If you're building a house and it costs, let's say, like $500,000, if you can put aside $100,000 to do the entire landscape. But then again, something that's got a lot of detail, those prices will go up and up. As soon as you start including structure, those prices start going up and up. Planting, it's probably, if you were sort of looking at a very top end home and doing the front of an entranceway of a top end of somewhere between around a 900 square meter section, you could easily throw around about 100 to 150K at it and get something really quite nice. Then again, of course, there are really, really simple ways to put in a landscape that, a fraction of that price, and you sort of start using doing sort of more minimalist landscapes where you sort of the elements that you use, you might not be using putting a lot into the landscape, but what you do it in a specific way that it creates that impact and it creates that wow factor. So, it really varies. It's really hard to put
Well, you've done a great job at answering all the questions that we have for you today. And if we do have any questions from the audience, we will be in touch with you. Thank you so much, James, for taking your time and sharing your expertise with the audience.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so now we are on to the reminder of our competition. And sorry if I'm looking to the left of the screen, because that's my screen of managing, and here is my camera. So just a quick reminder of the Nanoleaf Canvas competition that you can possibly win. All you have to do is tell us where you would like to place your Nanoleaf and what feature you are most looking forward to. The The competition winner would be announced sometime next week. All right, moving on to our next session and the final session to just wrap it up. I've got some top 10 DIY fails for you. So it's just a quick DIY fail. The number 10 is your failed origami, where someone tried to do and create this horse. Number 9 is a failed attempt at the melted crayon art. Number 8 is your failed hippo. Am I still doing it? I'm just gonna go through it all. All right, I'm just gonna run through all the failed DIY attempts. So, all right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. This one was an adventure. I hope you will join us on Tuesday next week to go through our next episode of the show. Thank you. Oh my God, that was, you guys are so mean.